All right, so Dylan is one of four children. He has an older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister. His older brother is 20, and his younger brother is 13, and his younger sister 10. Typical, child. He likes to play outside, and as he's gotten older, he's become more in tune with electronics and social media, and just typical child. Nothing out of the ordinary as it relates to any of his siblings. Right in line with them. Just a good kid overall, and definitely blessed. With his personality, he is the grounding portion of his brothers and sisters. He definitely wants to help, and definitely a leader amongst his brothers and sisters. But he also can be the clown. So he's our Dylan, I guess.
Okay. Well, Claudia growing up was a really healthy child, and she very seldom ever had to go to the doctor, ever had any medical problems at all. She was always very spunky, more so than most children. She's extremely hard-headed and strong-willed, which ended up serving her well, through her illness. And she danced and did the talent show and played Annie and was just a very vibrant child.
So Dylan, again, typical child, one of four, and at the time one of two when he was diagnosed. My wife's a school teacher, and Dylan happened to go to the same school that she was teaching at. And one day he decided, again, typical cut-up Dylan, decided that he could outsmart the teacher and sign my wife's name to something insignificant. I forget what it was, maybe a homework sheet or something. And again, he's a good student, made great grades, so nothing bad. But again, he decided he didn't get it signed, so he would just sign it for her. And the teacher, knowing my wife and them working together, knew it wasn't her signature. So she decided to bring Dylan over to her classroom and address the situation. Again, nothing negative. He hadn't done anything wrong other than sign her name, which if he had not, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But he was brought over to her room, and my wife began to ask him why he signed her name to the homework or whatever the document was at the time. And a typical, answer, I don't know. And so as they start to discuss it, and she explains, hey, you shouldn't have signed my name. That's the wrong thing. And you make great grades, and you do a lot of good things. You can't sign things just to avoid the punishment. And the punishment, I think, was minus some points. But again, she explained to him that it's wrong. You always if you do something wrong, you have to own up to it, and you have to take the consequences. And so Dylan, being as polite as he is, yes ma'am, I understand. And my wife said, as he had said, yes ma'am, I understand, he sort of got a blank look on his face and turned really pale and passed out, and hit his head on the ground. It's a typical school tile floor, and the people in the office heard the hit, and so the nurse came running. And as she entered the area that they were in, Dylan was coming to, and she started to talk to Dylan. He knew where he was, knew what was going on, and but she was concerned. She said, he hit his head pretty hard, so she asked my wife if they wanted him to take him to the hospital, and she said no, she'd take him over to the pediatrician. So they got in the car, and she called me.
So when she was 8 years old, she was in second grade. In fact, the year was almost over. It was May of 2015. She started having some bleeding that we thought could be a kidney infection. We went through a series of doctor's visits, and frankly, no one really could say what it was, and none of the tests of what they would think it was turned out to be would turn out to be so. And so after becoming very frustrated and increasingly concerned, I took her to the Women's and Children in Mobile, to the ER, which was kind of a strange thing to do, but I was just at a loss. And one of the ER doctors there really listened and became concerned as well, and took us through a different path, which was discovering that she in fact did have a tumor. And after that, things moved quite quickly. And after we did a local biopsy to see, and when the pathology came back malignant, we were at St. Jude less than 24 hours later.
So my introduction to St. Jude's, we had a friend that arrived at the hospital while we were at Women's and Children's, and we had worked together probably a decade before, and he shows up. I had not seen him since we worked together, and started talking to him. He brought donuts. His wife and him brought donuts, and we're eating donuts and drinking some coffee and just talking, catching up. And I asked how he knew we were there, and the significance about showing up. And he said his daughter had been diagnosed with an ependymoma, the exact same diagnosis my son was given. And so I was shocked. And so I was able to learn a lot from him about the diagnosis. But the greatest part was learning about St. Jude's. His daughter is a patient there, and so he was able to tell us a lot about it. Again, I didn't know a lot other than it was a research hospital for children, and they did a lot of things with cancer. And so I was able to get some information from him, and he said, if you're interested, I can help you getting in touch with them to try and get Dylan accepted into the hospital. And so I said, absolutely. So he helped us reach out to one of the people that had, helped his child get admitted into St. Jude's. And we reached out, and they said, absolutely. With an ependymoma being a very aggressive and rare type of cancer, that he was absolutely going to be accepted. So they said, when can you be up? And we said, well, we just got admitted into a private room, and hopefully we'll be released in the next couple of days. We'd like an opportunity to go home and celebrate his 10th birthday if possible. And they said, absolutely. So we went home, celebrated his 10th birthday, and then made the trek up to St. Jude's. And we were greeted at St. Jude's by friendly staff and just people that aren't the, and not in a negative way, but the typical administrative and doctor staff. These people are amazing. Just very welcoming and personable, and greeted us, treated us like family, and got us admitted. Told us what to expect, that we would be at St. Jude's for about 3 months, and he would go through different protocols and procedures, and it would take some time. But my wife and I had committed to her staying, and that I would return back home and take care of the rest of the children, and we would just do what we had to do.
It's very much, it's hard to explain because they're treating your child, but they do so, I always tell people they do so much more than that. They treat your whole family. I mean, there was a time when the doctor came for me and said, I'd like for you to talk to one of our, counselors available. There were chaplains available. I had a child at the time who was 5, and he would come and visit, and there were psychologists who met with him to explain to him that what his sister had was not contagious, because he was 5. He was very concerned. The services that they offer go so beyond just the treatment of cancer, and even in treating her, they treated mind, body, much more than just her cancer. There's music therapists that would come. She had a lot of anxiety, and they were always cognizant of that, and there was always a child life specialist available who could distract her with maybe something fun. She's very crafty, so they knew that was the way to calm her down, was to offer her something to do with her hands. But just amazing in the sense that I don't know that there's any other place on earth that goes beyond the medicine and actually treats the entire situation.
And so, we understood. And lo and behold, the next day, Dylan gets up, says he wants to go for a walk. The nurses agree and decide they're going to take him to the bathroom. And he said, no, I want to walk around the floor. And the nurse was like, are you sure? He said, yeah, absolutely. So Dylan decided he's going to take the entire floor. He walked the entire floor that day. The doctor came in amazed. It was like he'd never seen a child, 10 years old, or by this time 12, up and walking an entire floor the day after brain surgery. And so Dylan is a true miracle. He is a testimony to a lot of things. And we continue to go back for MRIs from that day, 2009, until present. We have progressed with great success. There's been no reoccurrence. We've not seen any changes. We continue to monitor and watch. And January of this year, so this month, we are going back up for an MRI. If the MRI is clean and good and stable, he will move to the long-term survivor study. And then we'll start going annually to St. Jude's for MRIs, and he'll be in the survivor study. And we are grateful to God and know that God has great things for him, and he's going to be a true testament to how wonderful St. Jude's is and how great they are and just the miracles that they provide.
There's really no way to ever express what St. Jude has done for my child and for me and for my whole family, but they truly saved her life, and they continue to study her and my middle child because of a genetic marker that they've discovered. So it doesn't end. They're watching out for my kids today and in the future to try to, if anything does develop, to catch it early. And they have provided my daughter a chance to flourish and to have a meaningful life, and there's no amount of gratitude for that. And I try very hard to give back to the children that I know that are still there, and to stay connected with the families that are still where I was 3 years ago.